Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Heat Roundtable. I'm your host, Amir Motamani, joined today by Trent, who's at work. You can find him at the Miami Heat Network. I also got Martel. You can find him at the Miami Heat Zone podcast. And we have a special guest today joining us. We have Major Paysons, or is it Passons? I don't know if I said that correctly.
Haskins. You're right.
Passons.
There you go.
So, yeah, thanks for joining, man. Really appreciate it. Do you want to just let the audience know a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I write about the Miami Heat and Skyforce, the G League team for 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm obsessed with Twitter, so that's where I do a lot of my stuff as well. And if you watch any of the live streams with 5 Reasons, I'm try to be on there as much as I can. So that's pretty much all I do. I try to do a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, of course.
So the Miami Heat last night are coming off a expected victory, but it was a tough fought game. We played against the Portland Trailblazers last night, and God, that first quarter was horrendous. Like Jimmy Butler just didn't care, only took one shot. Just we were disengaged. We looked tired. We looked like we were playing on a back to back, and this was the Portland Trailblazers Super Bowl. You know, Joe Cronin Super Bowl, as Giancarlo Navas from the Heat Beat said yesterday when we were talking to him, and it looked like it was their game. They were trying so hard. They're coming off an 8-game losing streak, and it was a tough first quarter, but the Miami Heat figured it out and got a much needed victory. So we're at 5 games now in a row, which is the second longest streak in the Eastern Conference behind the Celtics, who I think are at 9. So huge victory. I think we're in the 5th seed now, so we're only a game and a half games back from the New York Knicks, and they're injured right now, so we need to take advantage, and we have a really soft schedule, which is really good. And Trent, if you remember during the 7-game losing streak when we're losing to the Raptors by 30, losing to the D League, G League, Memphis Grizzlies, and we saw that upcoming schedule, those 9 games, right? We said that this is the inflection point of the season. This is the make it break it point, and we could literally be out of the playoffs if we continue with this trajectory. And so we figured it out, and we're playing the best basketball of the season right now. I think we've won 9 out of the last 11. So what are your thoughts on that game yesterday, Major? Did you watch the game, and just let us know your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean I think you hit it on the head. That first quarter was terrible. Like the Heat maybe ended the first quarter around down 9, but they should have been down, 15 or 20. And I know that's crazy saying about one quarter, but it was some of the worst basketball I've seen. And the Trailblazers, they're not a good offensive team, but they couldn't miss in that first half. So I expected, even though it started out terrible, the Heat have unfortunately done that a lot this year, and they kind of come back. So I expected them to still win by double digits, but Portland put up a better fight than I thought they would, to be honest with you. And I guess they're pumped up. They wanted to show, hey, we were a better package. We're better players for Dame. I think that actually does play into it, even though a lot of those guys didn't play. But like Ayton, he started out pretty good, and I know he couldn't play the second half, and that could impact it a little bit. But the real story of the game was the 3-point shooting. Started out, Portland was hitting everything. Second half, Portland, wasn't making a single thing. And Jimmy kind of woke up, and then Bam kind of woke up on the defensive end. And Terry, he hit one shot and then started hitting them all. So I just thought it was a classic example of one team is really up for the game. The other team, not quite as much at the start. I know it was a back-to-back, but, Jimmy didn't play in the first game. He was suspended, so he doesn't have that excuse. And then they just, the better team came out whenever it was needed most. Whenever it got tight, the better team came out.
So why do you think that the Miami Heat play better sometimes when we have multiple guys out compared to when everyone's healthy?
So I think part of that reason is like there's no question of who they're going to go to. So like whenever, Jimmy was out and Tyler's been out, you had Bam, and they played as Bam with the hub against the Kings. Yeah, against the Kings. Bam was the hub, and Bam was being decisive. And so there was no question, who's going to get the ball? Is it going to be Hero this time? Is it going to be Jimmy this time? I was like, Bam's getting the ball. All right. And then if it wasn't Bam, it was Hawkes. Like that was a very clear lineage for it. And so the Heat get in trouble whenever they're like, we're going to take turns. It's Jimmy's turn this time. It's Hero's turn this time. It's Bam's turn this time. But whenever there's like a clear, hey, you're going out there to play a role. Kevin Love isn't going to be like, am I going to be the focal point of the offense tonight? Duncan Robinson isn't going to be like, am I going to be the point guard tonight? they're there to play a specific role. So when guys are just more free flowing like that, instead of trying to think and, make other people happy, they're just playing.
Yeah, I agree. Like Jimmy, like when his usage is up, like we rely on him to get our buckets in that mid post down low. But when he's not there, there's better spacing and just the ball moves around a lot better. To your point, especially with Hero and Jimmy on the floor, it seems like those two take turns the most. So I think it's great because guys step up. They're all NBA players. They all like have egos and skill sets, and they think they're better than they are. You have to be at that level. So players like Jaime at the Kings, knew Jimmy's out, so they had to run the offense through him to a certain degree. And like they don't call plays for Jaime when Jimmy's in that post. Like he defers. Like he understands his role, and they understand that they're good enough. And as cliche as it sounds, whatever UD would always say, like the guys have to stay ready so they don't like have to get ready. So basically they're always ready. Like Duncan has like more responsibility and he's developed his skill set as a better playmaker. Obviously, he could put the ball on the floor now. Before he could only just catch and shoot and make crazy difficult shots. But if you rush him off the line, like he has a different skill set and he knows he needs to step up and play in a different way. And he did specifically against the Kings. So I think that's one reason too. But ultimately we still want our best players available. As weird as it like as it has been, like that we do step up when we're shorthanded, but we still ultimately want to be healthy. We still want Tyler obviously in there with Rozier, even though that fit hasn't been the best. But speaking of Rozier, Trent, what are your thoughts on him? I think that was probably one of his best games in the 11 games that he's been with the Heat so far.
Yeah, listen. Hey, nice to meet you, my man. Glad you got on the show. I will say, listen, never taunt Terry Rozier, because if you notice, when he got taunted, that's when he started to take off and look like Terry that we traded for, and he's getting more comfortable in the offense. And just that little spurt that I seen from Terry, that's all I've been waiting for, man. It's just more about comfortability. He said, I believe like a week or so, he's like, I haven't even got like moved into an apartment or house yet down here. Like, got his first practice not too long ago. So we got this stretch, 20 plus games for him and Tyler and Jimmy and Bam to figure this out, right? Because y'all kept saying, and I've been saying this for a while, why do we play better when our star players are out? And I think that's one of my biggest concerns, because if we're going to win, we need everybody there. We can't go into the playoff series and be like, oh, let's play the Nuggets with shorthanded. No, we will get swept. So we need to figure this out. And this is why we have the greatest coach, personally, in my opinion, in the NBA right now. And he needs to figure this out, the rotation and how Terry and Tyler can be stagnant, or Jimmy and whatever the case may be, Jaime, because Jaime looks like a different person when certain players are out, right? We was relying on him in the Kings game. He had 2 big buckets, and that's why we closed it out, right? Then yesterday, didn't look too great. He was still doing little things, but compared to that Kings game, it's like there's a lot of, what's the word? Like, they're not playing their best basketball. So that needs to be figured out fast if we need to make a deep playoff push, right? But going back to the Terry question, I love it. You can tell that he's getting more comfortable, and that's good. I love he can attack the rim, pull nice mid-range, shoot the threes, and do all that good stuff. So I'm interested to see what's going on with Tyler, because we haven't got a timetable when he's coming back. And if you didn't know, I'm probably not the biggest Tyler fan out of this whole group. And so it's interesting to see that we're playing. He was there majority of the time, but when Tyler goes out, it looks like we just played 10 times better. Like I can live without Tyler. That sounds me being a hater, whatever the case may be, but just insert Duncan in there, and I'm fine. Whatever we got out there, So I'm happy with the team. Didn't really care about how we won this game, just win. I said in the yesterday's show, this is a game we would lose. Like typical Miami, beat the Kings, impressive win, and then pull out and lose to the Portland Trailblazers. We didn't. It was very crazy in the beginning. I was like, what the hell's going on? But we figured it out, and we on a roll. So, yeah.
Trap game. We thought it would be a trap game. It felt like a trap game in the first quarter, but we figured it out. And so we talked about this in the other episodes, and we've been talking about this for the last few weeks. Defense, like I think that's like the biggest thing that's changed. Offensive rating 114. We're at 22 now. We were at 25. Like, hey, we're creeping up. Like, offense is improving for sure, but that's never going to be the Heat's identity. We don't have a Devin Booker. We don't have a Kevin Durant type of scorer, Steph Curry. But defense, we were at 14 or 15 at one point, middle of the pack, which was just not Miami Heat basketball. So now we're at 8th, like we're at 113.4. So, Major, what are your thoughts on just the Heat in general during this streak? Like how they've been playing defensively? Because I think that's huge. And Jimmy Butler also is looking not only engaged offensively and being
Yeah, he stepped it
aggressive,
up.
but defensively, man, like there was a possession yesterday against the Trailblazers, and I can't even name Cabarra, whoever those scrubs were playing. There was a play where he stripped a guy, but Portland got the ball back. Another player got the ball, and then Jimmy stripped that guy right afterwards. Like that play, like showed like his intensity on the defensive end has been amazing. I think. So, what are your thoughts on just the defense in general and how they've been stepping up as the #1 defense in the month of February?
Yeah, I mean, it's just urgency, right? Like they're playing like they need to win. Like they're playing like they need to get stops. For whatever reason, like the Heat go through phases every year to where they play like they think that they're really good. And I do think they are really good, but whenever you play like you think you're really good, bad things tend to happen. And I mean, they talked about it year after year since Jimmy's been there. We think we're better than we are. We think we're better than you are. We think we can win this game easily. And it's the NBA, right? Especially like 2024 NBA. There's talent everywhere, especially offensive talent specifically. So a guy can get hot for 35 on any given night on any team, right? So if you don't play with that urgency and you're like kind of, not closing out hard, you're not fighting for that rebound, someone's trying to post you up and you're kind of letting yourself get back down, it's going to make a big difference in today's NBA. And that's what they're doing. So like that possession that you're alluding to, if I remember correctly, it was like 88-90 too. And so it was a pretty big possession. It was when the game was starting to turn and Jimmy was just out of this world. Like he even said it's about that time. We all know after the All-Star break is when Jimmy really starts ramping it up and puts the team on his back. And he was doing that. So 88-90, like you said, someone tries to go up for a shot. He strips them. They get the ball back. He steals it again, and then he passes it down to Bam, which, if I remember correctly, it might have been for an and one too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just that was like those huge moments are when Jimmy has made his name. Like just think in the past, 4 years that Jimmy's been with the Heat. Think of every big moment. He's a part of it somehow. So when he plays with that urgency and is like do or die right now. The Heat, like you're saying, are struggling. If they're going on another losing streak, they might not make the playoffs. They're fighting for a play-in, and we don't want to do the play-in again. They need him the most, and he's stepping up and playing otherworldly and proving to everyone else like he's feared, like he's here. Like no one wants to play this man in the playoffs. You got Bill Simmons like PTSD and might need to go see a doctor because just the thought of Jimmy Butler, it's insane.
So what's your viewpoint on Tyler Hero? Because there's a lot of people that want to keep him for the future. There's some people that want to trade him every summer. Now, there's also some people that want to have him come off the bench. So what's your viewpoint on Tyler Hero? How good do you think he can be? And what's his potential with the Miami Heat going forward?
I think Hero, like I'm kind of in the middle of those two camps, right? Like I'm fine, honestly, with trading him for the right trade. He's not like you don't just trade great players. You don't just get rid of them for role players. So like I always hated that. And that's my pushback on that. But if there's a better fit for a guy that's just as good or, slightly under, but it's a better fit, that makes sense. I think he's like a fringe all-star guy. So I think he might make it a couple times, once or twice in his career, but he's always going to be in that conversation. Guy that makes me think of like CJ McCollum in his prime. He was always like that next man that would make it. Like he was always in that tier of like, CJ was good enough to be an all-star, but he's not going to go ahead of someone else. CJ never ended up making one, but I can see Tyler, especially in the East. It seems like year after year, the East have, less all-star worthy players. So I think he can make it a couple of times. So I'm fine if he's on the team. They might need to figure something out. I don't expect Jimmy to play for too much longer, just to be honest with you. So, the fit with Jimmy would kind of solve itself when Jimmy is no longer playing. But if there's someone better and someone, a better fit that's around the same, just as good, might as well.
But do you think he's good enough to be like the third best option on this Miami Heat team?
Are you saying for a championship or?
Yes. So like for all the runs, even though he's been hurt for all of them, but I'm saying for this run specifically, do you think he can back up Jimmy and Bam? Do you think he'll be able to show up going forward? You know
So
what I
I
mean? Hit
think
those timely buckets and just be, you know what I mean? Be the player that we need him to be. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, I think I feel like that's a hard question to answer right now, to be honest with you, because like he does keep getting hurt. So like we can't see it in the playoffs, unfortunately. Like I think he could prove it. But if he's playing how he has recently with Terry, of he's playing more off ball, not taking as many shots and facilitating a little bit more, I think that Hero can be the third offensive player for sure. Now, if earlier in the year when he was taking more of the shots and demanding the ball more and being the focal point of the offense, I don't personally think so, because I think that also takes away from what the other two players in Jimmy and Bam do best as well. So I don't think that's really Hero's fault, to be fair. But I mean, it's all about the fit, right? And if he's healthy. So I think it's a really hard question, because you see both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, because I think if he can kind of step back, he's never going to go to the bench. We've talked about that too much. I don't want to talk about that on this episode, but if he accepts the role kind of like Terry has, who's obviously it's a little different because he got traded midseason. He wasn't drafted by the Heat. He is understanding that I'm not going to score 24 points a game because I'm not on a crappy team. Like post-game interview, I think yesterday or after the Kings game, he's like, it's different here. This is like, we're playing for something. Like this is a winning culture. So I don't care if I'm averaging 13 points per game. Like he obviously that average should be more like 16, 17. He's just been shooting very inefficiently. Finally had a good game yesterday where he shot above 50%. But Terry understands that. And Tyler has, to a certain degree, with Terry in the lineup, where he is taking 12 to 14 shots. And if he could be consistent and effective and shoot 40% from three, 45% from the field, get you like 16 to 18 points also, I think that's when he's going to be the most effective. Because like when we want him to be our Devin Booker, he's not consistent enough, because he is a 3-level scorer to a certain degree, but he's not the best 3-level scorer. Like he focuses a lot on the mid-range pull-up jumper or threes. Like he can get to the floater, and recently he's been playing downhill and actually playing through contact, like against the Sixers and a few other games before he got hurt. He was actually being more aggressive. So I think that's an issue too, because we want him to score 24, 25. And Jimmy says fine. Like Jimmy probably would allow that in the regular season, but he's just too inconsistent. He'll have a 9-point game, a 13-point game, then you have a 24-point game. So there's a lot of pressure on him. But I agree. Like I think he could be our third best player. I guess he just needs to play within a certain role now that we have Terry Rozier on the team. So, but I want to talk about one other guy too, real quick though. So Duncan Robinson, the last guy that played that we didn't really talk about against the Portland Trailblazers, who stepped up big after having a horrible shooting game against the Kings where he was 1 for 11, like 0 for 8 from 3. He stepped up big time, 4 for 6 from 3, 17 points. Like, what is it about him in the starting lineup? We don't need to talk about how we should put him in the starting lineup, but like, what is it about him playing so effectively? Do you think it's just playing next to Bam and Jimmy? Like, why does he play so well? Like his points are like at 18 points per game. We've won like 20 out of the last 30 games with him starting, so it's kind of wild.
I think it's like the fit, right? And Heat Twitter hates the word gravity, but like it's a thing, and that's why people started hating it, because we kept saying it. Like, Jimmy, it's not a 3-point shooter. He shot him at a good clip, and he makes the open ones now. He's more willing, but he's not like a 3-point shooter even to the extent like Hero is. Hero is a good 3-point shooter. Duncan doesn't need the ball, though, like Hero does, to be as effective for what his skill set is. So Duncan, if you watch him, he is literally never not moving. He is running 24/7. That makes the defense have to react to, what Duncan's doing, but then they also have to worry about Jimmy and worry about Bam. And I mean, Duncan and Bam were just born to play with each other. I don't know what has happened to make them the perfect pairing, but they are just insane to play together. And then, it helps when you're top 5 shooter on the planet. So, and he's back to that. He is otherworldly right now. And I want to point out, even though he had a terrible shooting game against the Kings, like that's the evolution of Duncan, is he still actually had a productive game. So like he was still impacting the game in a positive light, which Duncan 2 years ago or last year, even a bad shooting game is don't play Duncan. But now, even if he's having a bad shooting game, he attacks closeouts really well. So if they don't close out hard, he'll shoot the 3 and more than likely make it. if they attack too hard, he'll put the ball on the floor and, he'll pass it to whoever's open, or he'll, start taking layups and floaters and stuff. I think it's just his game is made to be seamless with guys that have the ball.
Yeah,
I agree.
I would say this, man, right? Kind of going into like another direction, right? These 20 games are important, but we all know the goal, and we all know what's coming up next. It's the postseason, right? And I had a conversation with everybody yesterday about let me use better wording because Heat fans get upset. Who do we fear? I don't think we fear anybody, but what I'm talking about as a first round matchup, like who do we want to avoid in the sense of like the Bucks or the Knicks or Pacers or whatever team that's in around the 4, 5, 6, 7. Is there a team that like we know we can beat, but it's going to be a headache in that first round? Because I think we're going to be around like the 4 or 5. I don't think we catch up to 3 or anything like that, but I think we're going to be around that conversation, for anybody in here. That you want to talk.
If you're talking about who I'm pretty confident we'll beat, but it'll be like really annoying.
Yeah.
That's the Knicks. Like, I mean, I think we will beat them, but I think it'll be extremely annoying. And I guess that's credit to them. I always love those teams, like the Raptors a couple years ago. I was always like, please don't play the Raptors in the first round. We'll win, but it'll be a miserable 5-6 games. And like, that's how I feel about the Knicks.
So personally, it's funny that you say that because I'm the only one out of everybody in the group I said the Knicks. And I know the Knicks are not healthy, but they're good. I think they're very, very good. And they improve their roster. When everybody gets back healthy on that team, I personally don't want to deal with them in the first round. I don't. I know we beat them last year, but they improved their roster. They improved their roster, and I know Amir says Jalen Brunson can't be that number one guy, but man, Jalen Brunson fears me.
But we can give him that Trae Young treatment because when he's coming off screens and seeing multiple wing defenders, it's going to be pretty tough for him.
You're right, and this is why the Knicks, though, they went out there and said, okay, I know OG is not known as like the greatest offensive player, but last year you're going to Julius Randle. This year you're going to couple more options, right? OG, Julius, Bojan. Like they have other options over there that can like score. They just got to figure it out,
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. And OG's literally like the best 3-and-D type of player. Like we talk about our 3-and-D players. Outside of, Jimmy's not a 3-and-D player, but Haywood, Caleb Martin, those guys are good, but they're not OG. He still can get you 17 points per game. He could shoot like 40%. Like, I don't know what he's shooting at right now, but like he could shoot in the 38 to 40% range from 3. So that's a huge pickup. I agree. They're scary. Josh Hart can have a game or two.
Dante.
Dante too was another piece I forgot about that they added. Like Burks and Bogdanovich obviously can catch fire. But again, Brunson, obviously, like he could be the one, obviously, but I just don't think with Julius Randle and OG as your number 2 and 3, that's good enough. But they improved. We went to 6 games with them last year, and we were on the road again. So it could be even more difficult if we're the 5th seed, which we are right now, because if the playoffs started today, we would play against the Knicks. I think we could beat them, but it might be a 7-game series, at least 6 or 7. But I don't know. How crucial, Martel, I'm going to ask you this. How crucial is it for the Miami Heat to get the 4th seed? Because that seems like the most attainable. Do you think it's more important this year because last year we were on the road every single series, right? I don't think we had a home series, did we? I don't think we did at all. None. We had none. So is it important, in your opinion, to get first-round home court advantage? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes and no, because, you should be able to beat teams on the road. But, of course, home court is very important because, they'll be able to start the playoffs at home with their families, and they'll be a little bit more comfortable. So, of course, you kind of want the home court advantage. But you know what I mean? We still should be able to beat guys on the road no matter what. We do want the best matchup possible because obviously, we don't want to have to play the best team. You know what I mean? Just say, oh, yeah, well, the Miami Heat will get it done. No, we want to have a good matchup and, kind of just scale it up as we go. So, listen, whether we play the Boston Celtics, whether we play the New York Knicks or the Pacers, because I think the Pacers are very underrated as well. Listen, as long as we're healthy, I'll put this team up against anybody.
Especially in the East. At least
Yeah,
in the first, at least
especially in the
first two
East.
rounds.
Yeah,
In the
at least
first
in the
two rounds
East.
for sure.
Let me ask y'all a question. Which round? I think, and you can answer this question. I believe Patience, Kurt.
Major.
Passings, yeah.
Yeah. Which round do you want to see Boston? Right. Because I think that's the end goal for us, right? Do we want to see them early or do we want to see them at the end?
I mean, I would rather see the better teams later. It's just, I mean, it's not like that. I don't think it would make a difference in who wins the series, but I think it's more fun when you play them later.
Mhm.
And we keep playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. I would love to just keep that going. I would love it so much. I love the hey, put up or shut up. We keep playing each other. We hate each other. That's a risk I'm willing to take of losing a series to beat them. And I think that's what the Heat, the competitors, they're ultra competitors, right? And I think they want to send the Celtics home again.
And we will.
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah, if we play them, we will.
No, I can't stand Celtics.
Wait,
and I
but
live
what
in
do you-
Boston. And I live
He
in
lives
Boston.
in Boston. Yeah, Trent is a Miami Heat fan that lives in Boston that didn't choose to root for the Boston Celtics growing up there, which is kind of crazy. So,
But how will the Miami Heat match up with their size though? Because with Porzingis, as you can see, he can shoot over it. At the mid post, the free throw line, he's pretty much shooting over everybody. So how do you think the Miami Heat will really match up with them? I'm not really worried about the Milwaukee Bucks. Dame doesn't want to be there. Doc Rivers, he's absolutely terrible. So I'm not really worried about anyone else. But how will the Miami Heat match up with Drew Holiday and Porzingis? Because those are some big additions that they made.
I mean, who's our point forward, baby? That's in our rotation. Who's been getting more minutes? I mean, can it be Jovic? I don't know if we trust him at this point, honestly. But I mean, he's got the size. Like he's getting a little better. I think. Like with Drew, it's going to be Jimmy and Caleb and a few other guys. But who do you think, Trent? You think that makes sense? Do you think he'll be in? I don't know if he's going to be in the rotation, but we'll see.
I don't think so.
I don't. You listen. We are not going to be able to stop it. We just need to slow it down. You throw in Jaime, you throw in Caleb, you throw in Haywood Highsmith. That's it. You can't throw unless Jovic comes out there and is playing incredible basketball in the playoffs. I don't think you could play him. He's too young, too bright of a star, too bright of. It's too big. It's too big of a moment. So you go out there, who you ride with, who you've been riding with for the whole season, just throw bodies at him. I think that will affect them more. Porzingis is fragile. He can shoot over you, but he's fragile. Put more bodies on him. Bam, Jimmy, toughen him up. Get him in foul trouble. Foul. I think that's the best way. I don't think we can have any option to okay, we're gonna slow him down or take him out the game. Our roster's not constructed like that. We just gotta go out there, play tough basketball, force Jaylen Brown left, and let's go beat these bums.
You know who's gonna stop KP? His ligaments. His bones. He's gonna. That's if you can get to the Eastern Conference Finals, because the playoffs are more rugged and it's more bang bang in the playoffs. Who knows? He might not even be there with his.
That might be the biggest thing. Yeah,
but Bam would obviously guard him. I don't know why I was thinking in my head that Bam would help probably with Jason Tatum, but I don't know if he's going to guard Tatum. It's probably going to be like Haywood or Caleb. It's going to be on Tatum or Jimmy even, right? Because I mean, who's gonna? Well, because we had Kyle Lowry was guarding Jaylen Brown. Remember? Because that size advantage was ridiculous, but he was so slow and couldn't stop the point of attack at all. So I feel like Kyle was guarding Jaylen to a certain degree last year. But what do you think those matchups would look like in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know. There's a lot of variables, and it's going to be who's playing good around that time. If Haywood's playing good, he's going to play more. If Caleb's playing good, he's going to play more. If Hawkes is playing good, he's going to play more. It's going to be, I think, game by game. And I think that's the good thing the Heat have in their depth, but it's also you would like to know who's playing at the same time. As for the matchup for the Celtics, maybe I'm delusional, but I don't think Porzingis can win you a playoff series. I think he'll win you a game or two, but if he has to be the number one and you're trying to shut down Tatum and Brown, I'll live with Porzingis getting 25 to 30. If you're stopping Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday is incredible. I think Heat fans are now they're fooled into thinking he's not as good as he actually is because Jimmy torched him. But he was playing perfect defense against Jimmy. There's nothing Drew Holiday could do. He was playing perfect. And, I would like to think Jimmy's going to score 56 every game, but that might not happen. So I think there are a lot of variables there, but when the playoffs, a lot of times it's just who wants it more. It's nothing ever goes to plan, and who's going to be ready for a dogfight. And I will put the Heat up against anyone in a dogfight. Like, they're built for that.
Unless they're playing the rematch from last year in the finals, which I could segue into. We're playing the Denver Nuggets next. So we haven't played them yet, and we're playing them twice in the next 2 weeks. So we're playing them tomorrow. Heat are on a 5-game winning streak. Martel, predictions, thoughts, and guess what? Tyler Hero's probably not going to play again. So we're not going to be able to see what Tyler could have done. But we have Terry Rozier. We have DeLon Wright. We have Jaime Jaquez. We have a few different pieces that we could see how they play and match up, right? We don't have Gabe Vincent on Aaron Gordon, which don't get me started on that last year. But Martel, what are your thoughts? Do you think we get this game tomorrow? Like, how important is this game? How up are we going to be for this game? Just what are your predictions for tomorrow?
Well, for some strange reason, we can never win in Denver. But
Never.
like I said earlier, that's still not an excuse, man. We still got to continue the momentum that we have. Trust one another and try our best. Like, I know that we're still not fully healthy, but I still think we have enough to get it done. We're not going to stop Jokic, but all we could do is try to slow him down. That's it, and get him into foul trouble.
Yeah, what do you think, Major? What's your prediction? Think we got a shot?
I think we got a shot. I mean, as far as I think it's an important game to like the whole season, or if I think we can beat them in the playoffs, I don't think one game in the regular season matters any at all. I mean, the playoffs are a different beast, like we've been talking about. I mean, I think we can win. We can beat anyone. I mean, I firmly believe that on any given night, the Heat can beat anyone. So in a 1-game thing, I'm never going to say, oh, they don't have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. And this would be a huge victory if we can get that streak up to 6, win 10 out of the last 12, but beating a Denver Nuggets team on the road. I mean, we did win one time last year in the playoffs, right? But in the regular season, I don't think we've beaten them. I don't even know since 2018 or even further back. Shit. I mean, yeah, it's been like at least 4 or 5 years since we beat them in the regular season, which is at least 8 to 10 games, right? Because that's actually 1 game on the road. So it's been like 6 or 7 games we haven't beat them on the road. So that's going to be a tough matchup tomorrow night, but let's see if the Heat are up for it. I don't know if Tyler Hero is going to play or not. I think it says he's day-to-day now. It doesn't say he's out. So I'm hoping we can get Tyler back, but at this point, probably makes more sense to rest him up just with his injury history because, Martel, you said it. Every time he gets an injury, it's usually around this time or during the playoffs, which is unfortunate. He's had a groin injury, the hand injury, all that stuff. So I don't think they want to risk anything with that knee injury, even though it's just a hyperextension. So anyway, I think that's all we have for the show today. We just want to thank you again, Major, for joining us. It was really nice having you on. And do you want to let the folks know where they can find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me. It's just my name, Major_Passons on, mostly Twitter. I do have Instagram, but I'm terrible at posting and doing stuff there. So mainly Twitter, Major_Passons, and then just 5 Reasons Sports Network is where you can find all my articles and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thanks again. And
thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you. And Trent is not here, but don't forget to subscribe to Miami Heat Network, Miami Heat Zone, and my channel, The Team to Beat Miami Heat. So thank you again for watching, guys. Take care.
Thank you.